They came to the rainfields in the hour before the next council, when the sky over Solabri Prime was the colour of old bone, and the grasses were wet, and the world smelled of something no one on Dust had ever named, because Dust had never had it. They called it clean. Serethi Voss walked without her envirosuit sealed, the collar open to the rain, her close-cropped dark hair beaded with water, her pale grey eyes catching the dim sky the way they caught everything, as if the light were a signal and she were always listening for the message inside it. Kael Thyros walked beside her, his civilian coat already soaked through at the shoulders, his matte black prosthetic left hand at his side, the exposed joint mechanisms darkening with moisture he never bothered to wipe away. They were not holding hands. They were walking close enough that their arms touched at intervals, and neither of them moved away. This was the thing they did not discuss in councils. This was the thing that had no name in any language Valen had taught them. It was simply the rain and the new soil and the two of them, and the knowledge that somewhere beneath their feet the seed pulsed its quiet blue-white light into the dark like a second heartbeat for a world that had been dead for 12 centuries. They had earned this. The galaxy owed them at least this much. The galaxy, as it always did, disagreed. Serethi felt it first. Not a sound, but an absence of sound, the rain's white noise interrupted by something that did not belong to weather. She stopped walking. Kael's hand moved to where a sidearm would be if they had brought one. They had not brought one. This was supposed to be an hour of not being soldiers. The darkness to the north moved. Not the darkness of cloud or rain shadow, but the shapes of figures that had been standing still long enough to seem like landscape and were now not standing still. Kael counted them in the time it took to breathe once. 5. Moving fast across the soft new soil, their progenitor alloy armor catching the rainlight in amber flashes that should not have been there. Tracking devices strapped to their forearms, sweeping arcs of amber light through the downpour. Reclaimer Advanced Team, here on Solabri Prime, through the orbital grid. The question of how would come later. What came now was Kael's voice, very quiet, very steady, saying one word: run. Serethi did not run. She stood in the rain and watched the amber sweep of the tracking devices and understood something her body knew before her mind caught up. The tracking devices were not sweeping randomly. They were locked. They were locked on her. Not on the seed chamber's surface access, which lay 30 meters behind them, flush and invisible in the dark soil, but on her. Her residual scar pulse, the ghost of what she had burned away, read on Reclaimer Progenitor-attuned tracking systems like a door. The advanced team was hunting a signal, and the signal was her, and the seed chamber's surface access was 30 meters behind her in the direction they were coming from. If she stayed where she was, they would walk straight over it. Serethi Voss turned and ran, not towards safety, across the field. Laterally, away from the access point, drawing the amber sweep of the tracking devices after her, like a hand pulling thread. She heard Kael make a sound she had never heard from him before. Not fear, not protest. Something between them that had no military designation. And then she heard nothing from him at all, because the first of the Reclaimer operatives had reached him. Kael Thyros fought in the dark mud with the knowledge that he had no weapon and no backup, and one hand that was biological and one that was matte black progenitor-adjacent alloy, with exposed joint mechanisms that had been repaired twice since Dust, and had never been tested against a Reclaimer in full armor. He tested it now. The first operative came in fast and low, expecting a civilian. Kael let him close the distance and drove his prosthetic elbow into the man's faceplate, with the full rotation of his shoulder behind it. The faceplate cracked. The man went down. The mud took him. The second came from the left. Kael was already turning. The prosthetic hand caught the operative's tracking device and tore it from the forearm mount, the amber light going dark, the sweep dying. And Kael used the device as a bludgeon against the third operative's helmet before it shattered in his matte black grip. 2 tracking signals down, 3 operatives still moving. The mud was soft enough to swallow a man to the knee if he stood still too long. Kael did not stand still. Serethi ran. The rainfields of Solabri Prime stretched in every direction, dark soil, vivid green grass in scattered patches, the corroded dome frames of the old warrens standing in the middle distance like the bones of a civilization that had not yet finished becoming something else. She ran across the new grass and felt it wet and alive under her boots, and thought of Maren, who had never seen grass, and thought of dust, which had never had it, and ran harder. 2 tracking operatives still active, their sweeps locked on her residual pulse, trying to flank. She changed direction, toward the old dome frames. The ground was softer there, the warrens beneath had collapsed in places. And she knew this terrain, and the reclaimers did not. She had walked it every morning for 3 months. She had memorized every dip and hollow. She ducked through a gap in the corroded metal, and the tracking sweep lost her for 3 seconds. The old dome's residual progenitor substrate in the frame structure, splitting her pulse into 2 apparent sources. She heard the operatives shout to each other in the reclaimer dialect, not words she could fully parse, but the shape of confusion, the cadence of men who have lost their signal and are arguing about where it went. She stepped out of the dome frame on the far side and let the tracking sweep find her again. It did. She ran straight across the open field, no cover, no evasion, as fast as she could move across dark, wet soil with cable-wrapped boots, and the rain in her eyes, and the amber sweep burning between her shoulder blades like a brand. She was a signal. She would be a signal until they caught her, or until Kael stopped the team, or until she found a way to end this. Behind her, in the dark mud, Kael Thyros fought 3 reclaimer operatives and thought about nothing at all. The prosthetic hand's repaired joint at the third knuckle was grinding. He could feel it in the way he could not feel it. The phantom feedback of a limb that was not flesh registering stress as a kind of white noise at the junction of the prosthetic's neural coupling. He had been told the joint would hold under normal operational stress. He had been told a lot of things about what would hold. The third operative got behind him. Kael went down to one knee in the mud, deliberate, not defeat, and drove the prosthetic hand backward into the operative's knee joint with the full torque of his shoulder and back. The knee gave. The operative went down. The mud took him too. 2 left, standing. Kael stood. The grinding at the third knuckle was louder. He stood anyway. Serethi led the last tracking operative through 3 more dome frames and across a depression in the soil where the old warren ceiling had collapsed, and the new grass grew thick and treacherous underfoot. She heard one of them go down behind her. Ankle by the sound of it, the soft soil giving way where she had known it would, and kept running. 1 left. The amber sweep was closer now. She could hear his breathing through the rain. She changed direction again, angling back toward the center of the fields, away from the dome frames, letting the signal clarify, letting him lock on and follow. She was leading him back toward the fight, back toward Kael, back toward the open ground where the surface access lay invisible in the dark soil, and she needed the operative to pass it without looking down, and she needed to give him a reason to keep looking at her instead. She ran straight across the open field as fast as she could, the rain in her eyes, the amber sweep burning at her back, until she heard Kael's voice. Not words, just the sound of him, the specific quality of his breathing when he was moving fast and hurt. And she angled toward it, and the operative angled with her. Kael stepped out of the dark rain, and the operative ran directly into him. It was not elegant. It was a large man moving fast, colliding with a lean man who had already fought 4 people in the mud and had a grinding prosthetic and a cut along his ribs and had braced himself in the dark specifically for this impact. They went down together. They did not come up the same way. Serethi stood in the rain and breathed. The amber sweeps were dark. The rainfields were quiet. Somewhere behind her, 30 meters back, the seed chamber's surface access lay flush in the dark soil, unlit, undiscovered, unheld. She walked toward the place where Kael had gone down. She found him sitting in the mud with his prosthetic hand braced against the ground, and his right hand pressed against his ribs, and his shaved head tilted back, rain falling on his face, the thin surgical scar from temple to ear catching the dim sky's light. He was alive. He got up. She knelt in the mud beside him and did not say anything for a moment because there was nothing to say that the rain was not already saying. He turned his head and looked at her with the specific expression he never wore in councils, the one that meant he had run the numbers and the numbers had come out right, and he was surprised every time that they had. She pressed her palm flat against his ribs over his hand. Beneath their feet, kilometers down, the seed chamber pulsed its quiet blue-white light into the dark, steady and unbreached, the sound of a world being maintained. The rain fell. The new grasses bent under it and rose again. The world that had been dust breathed in and breathed out, and 2 people knelt in its mud and held each other up. And the hours they had stolen were broken now, but they had been real. They had been real.